Walters is the place to be before and after games at Nationals Park. Be sure to check out their self-poured beer wall that includes options such as the Vienna Lager.
And now, two pigeons bemoaning the fact you can choose the TV you want with DirecTV.
So now they can pick out their favorite entertainment when they sign up and save money?
You mean if you like sports?
You can get a sports pack.
What about entertainment?
Entertainment pack.
It's like finding an old pizza with your favorite toppings, which for me would be pineapple and toenails.
Pineapple?
Pay for the TV you want, not the TV you don't. Genre pack starting at $34.99 a month. Visit DirecTV.com for more information. New residential customers only. Local channels vary by market. Services renew monthly unless you cancel online. Credit card required. Restrictions apply.
The 0-1. Swing a long drive right field. This one is way back, and it is long gone. Halfway up the bleachers in straightaway right field, O'Neal Cruz has homered for the second time in the series. And 2 pitches into the bottom of the first, the Pirates lead 1-0. Santana ready to go. Here's the kick and the pitch. Strike 3 called. A changeup locked him up, and this one is over. Pirates blank the Nationals 1-0. Nationals drop 3 of 4 here in Pittsburgh and fall to 2-5 on this road trip.
And welcome to Nats Chat along with MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman, who is at PNC Park in Pittsburgh. Al Galdi hosted the Al Galdi podcast. The Nats now are just 2-5 on a 10-game road trip that now has seen a key reliever and the Nats manager get suspended. Thursday afternoon, a 1-0 loss at the Pittsburgh Pirates to lose 3 out of 4 games in the series. The Nats in MLB's 2025 regular season now are 7-12. And yeah, we now have suspensions. The Nats for this game were without manager Davey Martinez as he served a 1-game suspension. MLB Senior Vice President for on-field operations, Michael Hill, he on Thursday morning in a press release that came out about an hour before the game announced that Nats reliever Jorge Lopez had, quote, received a 3-game suspension and an undisclosed fine for intentionally throwing at Andrew McCutchen of the Pittsburgh Pirates in the bottom of the 7th inning of Wednesday night's game at PNC Park, end quote. And Hill also announced that Davey Martinez had, quote, received a 1-game suspension and an undisclosed fine as a result of Lopez's actions, end quote. You can find us on X at Nats_chat. You can find us on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email us natschatpodcast@gmail.com. Also, please consider subscribing to the podcast if you're not already doing that. Subscribing costs nothing. Make sure that you never miss an episode and helps out the podcast a lot. And if you are already subscribing, we say thank you. Coming up later in the show, a report on the Nats AA affiliate, the Harrisburg Senators, from the voice of the Senators, Terry Byrom. Mark, I do not believe that you have been suspended, so good to be with you, but a stunning development on Thursday morning and then a loss on Thursday afternoon in a game in which the Nats pitching was really good, but the offense, again, was really bad.
Not a lot of things went right for the Nats, either today or really, you could talk about pretty much most of the road trip to this point. But as far as this one goes, the combination of the suspension and just the lifeless offensive performance from them after having a very similar performance on Wednesday night. I mean, it's early. It's only 19 games in. But boy, that felt like a low point, and you hope it is a low point because I shudder to think what's going to be worse than this.
So Jorge Lopez is appealing his suspension. Before we get to the specifics of the game, I would like to talk to you about the suspensions because this really is remarkable. We agreed, I think most Nats fans agreed, what happened on Wednesday evening, the quote-unquote incident, was really not that much of an incident. Yes, benches and bullpens emptied, but no punches were thrown. And I don't think any reasonable person thought that Jorge Lopez was intentionally throwing at Andrew McCutchen. And yet Lopez gets ejected from the game. Okay, you figure this thing is over. And then out of nowhere, we get this announcement on Thursday morning. Lopez suspended 3 games, and Davey Martinez, because he's the manager, gets suspended for a game. And Davey, as a manager, cannot appeal his suspension, so he served the suspension on Thursday afternoon. The Nats' acting manager was bench coach Miguel Cairo. You were at PNC Park. How surprised were you by what MLB announced?
Yeah, I was shocked. I think maybe the only person more shocked than me was Davey Martinez, who, from what I understand, because we didn't actually interview him because he wasn't available, that he had the same reaction, just completely dumbfounded by it. And let's walk through it. I guess I can understand if you're MLB and you know that Paul DeJong was hit in the face the night before, broke his nose, an awful incident that everybody feels bad about, of course. And then the very next night, you see arguably the Pirates' best two hitters, Bryan Reynolds hit by a pitch, and then a few pitches later, a ball goes over Andrew McCutchen's head. I can understand how in a vacuum you might look at that and say, okay, that looks suspicious. They're upset about their guy getting injured. We're going to retaliate the next day. And, it's fascinating that they just almost stated as fact in that press release as saying for intentionally throwing at Andrew McCutchen. I always want to believe that the umpires and that the league can try to take a little more context into these decisions and look at this and say, realistically, what do we think happened here? I know it doesn't look good for somebody who maybe wasn't following this all along, but the Nats were not upset at Mitch Keller or the Pirates because Paul DeJong broke his nose. It was a freak thing that can happen to anybody, and it's one of the scariest things that can happen on a baseball field, but nobody faulted Mitch Keller for that. And if you've watched Jorge Lopez and the bullpen as a whole the first 3 weeks of the season, it's been a colossal struggle. And so when you are in a competitive game in the seventh inning with a guy on the mound who's desperately trying to get himself right and help the team keep the game close to try to win it, there's just really no rationale at all for him throwing intentionally. And so I wish, whether it's through interviews with the people involved or just taking a step back and trying to really evaluate the larger storyline here, I wish they could look at that and say, yeah, I get it. We're trying to be careful. We don't want it to escalate in anything. We don't want to give anybody reason to think that this could, continue beyond this point. But really, it never should have been looked at that way. And I think they should have understood that there was zero purpose behind those pitches at all.
It's one of the most nonsensical administrations of discipline I can ever remember. I just don't know how anyone who is looking at this thing rationally and in a sober manner thinks that Jorge Lopez was trying to hit Andrew McCutchen with that pitch. And, it's worth noting the statement from MLB mentions nothing about the Bryan Reynolds hit by pitch. It only mentions Lopez supposedly intentionally throwing at Andrew McCutchen. But there is such irony to this whole thing. First of all, Lopez did not hit McCutchen with the pitch. So let's first establish that. Second of all, a Nats player got hit on the head with a pitch in Paul DeJong. McCutchen did not get hit on the head with a pitch. DeJong did get hit on the head with a pitch, suffered a serious injury, and yet nobody from the Pirates took a penalty. Where is that? Why can't the Nats argue, well, our guy got hit and we think that Keller purposely threw at DeJong, even though nobody really thinks that, right? But couldn't you do what Derek Shelton pretty clearly did on Wednesday evening, which is lobby the umpires and make your case? And so the Nats end up getting not one, but two suspensions out of this. I just find that to be ridiculous. And I don't know how, if you're MLB, you look at this and are proud of what you did here. I just think this is nuts. Lopez is appealing. Usually when you appeal, you get something docked off. So maybe he gets it knocked down to 2 games. I don't know. We'll see. But that's not the point. The point is that this should not have happened. And the fact that a Nats player got hit on the head, in the face, the Pirates player did not get hit by the pitch, and yet the Nats are the ones taking the suspensions. I just can't get over that.
It reminds me in a sort of bizarre way. Go back to the Bryce Harper and Hunter Strickland incident way back in 2017. We knew the backstory there, and then Strickland throws behind Harper's head, and he charges the mound. Everything falls apart. Well, Strickland got penalized, but so did Harper for doing that. And I remember Bryce even saying, maybe the day after when his suspension came down, something to the effect of, if I don't charge the mound there, nothing ever happens from this. Strickland never gets punished for what he did. And so it required Bryce himself getting punished by going out there, creating a benches clearing incident to make sure that the guy who's really responsible is punished in some way. And it's not the same exact situation here, but if not for Derek Shelton making a big deal of it, coming out on the field, nothing ever comes of this. And so it is weird in baseball how, again, I think they don't take the common sense into this and they react to what happens. And it's very often not the instigator of it, but the reaction to it that ends up getting penalized. And again, I don't think Mitch Keller, anyway, with the Pirates, should have been disciplined in any way. It's a freak thing that happened to Paul DeJong. And I don't believe that Jorge Lopez or Davey Martinez or anyone with the Nationals should have been. Sometimes you just have to look at the situation and say, it was a bad situation. It looked bad on the surface, but if you really consider it, nobody's to blame for any of it.
You know what's also funny, too, is that MLB.com and Nationals.com, which is run by MLB.com, both essentially promoted the benches and bullpens clearing incident. If you went to MLB.com on Wednesday night, you saw on the headline, Nationals, Pirates, benches clear. Right now, as we are recording this late Thursday afternoon, I am on Nationals.com, and off to the side, one of the top headlines, quote, benches clear between Nats, Bucks after high inside pitch. So you're MLB.com, and you are trying to generate web traffic by something that you also deemed so inappropriate that you had to levy a 3-game suspension of Jorge Lopez and a 1-game suspension of Davey Martinez. Explain that to me. You know, you talk about a lack of congruence. Like, explain that. MLB.com and its affiliated site, Nationals.com, can promote what happened on Wednesday evening, but at the same time, MLB is suspending multiple people with the Nats for what happened on Wednesday evening.
I'm shocked to learn that gambling is going on in this establishment. Essentially what that is there. They dance the tightrope all the time in condoning things or not condoning things, and then also promoting it because, yes, it does generate clicks and views and interest. And there are probably people in the offices on Park Avenue who are saying to themselves, hey, isn't this good for the game? Is it? I don't know if it is or not, but it's definitely talking out of both sides of their head in a lot of ways.
All right, so we had the suspensions on Thursday morning. By the way, I texted you about this. I'm guessing people are probably curious about this. First pitch for this game was right around 12:35. The press release from MLB announcing these suspensions came out at 11:30. When did the Nats find out that Lopez and Martinez had been suspended?
They found out earlier in the morning. It did not go down that late. My guess is they get the word of it, and maybe there's some time that has to elapse while Lopez talks to his agent and the players union, because he does have the right to appeal it. And so you're not going to put out the press release until you know what his response to it is. Again, the manager has no right to do that. They're not part of a union. So he had to take that suspension. So my guess is they had to deal with all those matters before the official release came out. But no, the Nats didn't find out at 11:30 before 12:30 game what was going on. They knew, I would say, at least as early as 9:30, maybe even earlier than that.
This cafe is closed until further notice. Clear the room at once.
How can he close me up? On what ground?
I'm shocked to find that gambling is going on in here.
You're winning, sir.
Oh, thank you very much.
Hey, it's Al Galdi for Window Nation, which has a gift for Nats Chat podcast listeners that's as good as any James Wood home run. 4 free windows for every 4 windows that you buy, and you pay nothing until 2027. This offer is good through April 30th, so hurry. Schedule your free estimate at 866-90Nation or windownation.com and tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast. There's no limit to how much you can save, and if you buy a house full of windows, Window Nation will include a free entry door. Window Nation partners with the top window manufacturers in the nation to build windows to their high-quality specs. Then Window Nation passes the savings on to you. You'll protect your home with some of the best windows that you can buy at a fraction of the price of other brands, and you'll increase the value of your home. 4 free windows for every 4 windows that you buy, and you pay nothing until 2027. The offer is good through April 30th. Call 866-90Nation or visit windownation.com and tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast.
And now, 2 pigeons bemoaning the fact you can choose the TV you want with DirecTV.
So now they can pick out their favorite entertainment when they sign up and save money.
You mean if you like sports?
You can get a sports pack.
What about entertainment?
Entertainment pack.
It's like finding an old pizza with your favorite toppings, which for me would be pineapple and toenails.
Pineapple?
Pay for the TV you want, not the TV you don't. Genre pack starting at $34.99 a month. Visit DirecTV.com for more information. New residential customers only. Local channels vary by market. Services renew monthly unless you cancel online. Credit card required. Restrictions apply.
Here it comes. Swinging a pop-up. This one straight up the chute. It's playable. Moving in near the mound, Nathaniel Lowe, the first baseman, reaches back and makes the catch. He almost overran it. But Trevor Williams does an amazing job to strand 2 runners in the 5th. They had first and third, no outs, and they do not score. What an escape job by Trevor Williams.
So the Nats offense, which had been doing really well, ended up having a really bad series in this 4-game set at the Pirates. Even the Nats' lone win in this series, that was a 3-0 win on Tuesday evening. It's not like the offense in that game was stellar. The Nats end up scoring a total of just 1 run over the final 2 games of this series. And Thursday afternoon was no contest. No runs, 5 hits, 2 walks, 0 for 6 with runners in scoring position. The 5 hits were a double and 4 singles. The Nats got worked by Pirates starting pitcher Andrew McCutchen. He tossed 7 1/3 scoreless innings. And save for Nathaniel Lowe, who continues to be so consistent. He is the Nats starting first baseman and cleanup batter, went 2 for 4 with a double and a single. There was very little happening with this Nats offense in this game. Just a lot of bad at-bats and just an overall feeble offensive performance.
And sadly, this is what we've now seen for almost a week. And we talked about it the other day that first 13 games this season, they have 42 extra base hits. 18 of them are home runs. And we're gushing over this new Nats offense that can hit for power and can make up for all these other flaws. And how great is it to see multiple guys with the ability to hit the ball hard in the air? But what's happened since then? Their last 6 games, and 5 of those are losses, not surprisingly. 4 extra base hits and only 1 of them a homer. That was the James Wood leadoff homer the other night. I mean, that is a dramatic fall off a cliff from what they were doing previously. And why would that be the case, especially against the 2 teams that they just faced? I don't know. The weather in Pittsburgh was cold, but it wasn't a problem in Miami. It was beautiful there. That is tremendously discouraging. I do think the loss of C.J. Abrams is part of that. We know that when he's in there and playing the way he's capable of, it makes the lineup go. And he's been out now for the better part of a week. I think they missed that. In this particular game, Keibert Ruiz finally had another day off, only his second day off. And the difference between what he's done so far and what Riley Adams does for you is pretty dramatic. You're talking about a lineup in this game with Alex Call leading off and Ahmed Rosario batting third. Not a lot of imposing names there in the top half of that lineup. Dylan Cruz hit 5th in spite of his struggles. So you put that all together and this is what happens. And it's such a discouraging development from what we thought was a really encouraging development. And maybe it will flip back. You want to believe that it's not going to be this bad over the long haul. But boy, the last 6 games are nothing like the first 13 were from an offensive standpoint.
The Nats offense was really bad in the team getting swept in 3 games at Toronto, March 31st through April 2nd. That had been the offensive low point for the Nats so far this season. I think this 4-game series at the Pirates is that new low point. The good news is that up next is a 3-game series in what is known as a torture chamber for pitchers, and that is Coors Field. So you would think if an offense needs to get right, that is where you want to be playing, Coors Field. So we'll see. By the way, even in a game for which Davey Martinez was suspended, Ahmed Rosario batted third. If I'm Miguel Cairo, I'm scratching that out. I'm saying, okay, I'm in charge now. I'm the captain now. Let me see if I can adjust this thing appropriately. But no, Rosario did end up batting third. And the shame of this is that the Nats offense was bad, and it wasted what was a very well-pitched game by the Nats. Trevor Williams had easily his best start so far this season. He came into the game with an ERA of 7.36 over 3 starts this regular season, but he on Thursday afternoon allowed 1 run in 5 innings with 5 strikeouts. He gave up just 3 hits, which were a home run and 2 singles. He did issue 3 walks. It did throw a good number of pitches, 5 innings, 90 pitches, 54 strikes, 36 balls. But the only real major blemish for him was him giving up a leadoff homer by O'Neill Cruz in the bottom of the first inning. And that was some homer by Cruz. A bomb to right field for a 1-0 Pirates lead, 442 feet per StatCast. But beyond that, Trevor Williams was very solid, and the Nats bullpen in this game did a good job. 2 Nats relievers combined for 3 scoreless innings. Lucas Sims, a scoreless bottom of the 6th with 2 swinging strikeouts. Jose A. Ferrer, perfect bottom of the 7th with 2 strikeouts, and then a scoreless bottom of the 8th. You could argue this was the worst offensive game for the Nats so far this season. This also was one of the best pitch games for the Nats so far this season.
Yeah, I thought that Trevor Williams looked really much more like his 2024 version than his 2025 version. That's a great thing. He wasn't great. You know, he did have to get out of some jams. He did throw 90 pitches in 5 innings, so he's not exactly a model of efficiency there. But he limited the damage. And that's what he did so well last year. The leadoff homer, leaves a slider over the plate, and O'Neill Cruz just destroyed it. But to his credit, he didn't let it snowball from there. He got right down to business, took care of everything else, and made some big pitches. Again, 2 guys on in the 3rd, gets out of it. 2 runners in scoring position in the 5th, gets some strikeouts of Cruz and Reynolds, and then gets McCutchen to pop out. So a very encouraging day for him, even if the result isn't what you want. And this was a bizarre twist or irony, I guess, to it, is that last summer, Trevor Williams and Andrew Heaney faced each other in Texas, and it was a 1-0 game won by the Nationals. This time it goes 1-0 for the opposition. Just strange that those two, not really big-name pitchers you normally think of as being battling, 1-0 kind of games, that they would do it 2 years in a row with just the slightly different result. Maybe they bring out the best in each other. I don't know.
2 veterans going at it. Nats Pirates on a Thursday afternoon at PNC Park. Not exactly World Series Game 7, but hey, each guy rose to the occasion. There's no question that this is the Trevor Williams who you want to see, right? 1 run, 5 innings. If you're being realistic, that's the best of what you're going to get from Trevor Williams, and there's no problem with that. Him giving up that homer early in the game, you say to yourself, oh boy, here we go again. He had not been good so far this season, but Williams, to his credit, settled down. And, since he had that major problem with giving up the home run in his first season with the Nats 2023, Williams has done a much better job of not giving up home runs. That was maybe the single biggest item of improvement for him from 23 to 24. And even so far this season, it's not necessarily like he's been giving up a ton of homers. He's been just, put a lot of guys on base. In this game, he gives up the early homer, and it was not some cheapie. Again, you're worried about what you could be seeing the rest of the outing, but he, to his credit, did a really nice job.
Yeah, and look what else he did the rest of the day. It's a lot of ground balls, some lazy fly balls, even some strikeouts, which is not necessarily his forte. So it's not like, it didn't feel like he was getting lucky in this one. No, he was pitching well, keeping the ball down in the zone, and hopefully he can take whatever he figured out in this one and apply it to his next one and go on a little bit more of a run and show that the guy we saw last year can actually be who he is. As you said, he's not going to be the low 2 ERA, give up 1 run every single time out, but he can be a 5 quality innings kind of starter who gives his team a chance and is just very reliable. And I think they would love to see that happen. I think the other, arguably most important or encouraging development from this game might have been Lucas Sims's scoreless 6th. That sounds weird to say, but he needed that. It's a 1-0 game, so it's still close. He put 1 guy on with a single, but he struck out the first batter he faced, struck out the last batter he faced, didn't let the runner go anywhere after that. They are going to need it because I don't think they're just getting rid of a guy they paid $3 million to. And as we discussed, there are not a whole lot of options waiting in the wings at AAA from a bullpen standpoint. So, yeah, Jose Ferrer, 2 scoreless innings, that's great, but you kind of expect that more from him. For Sims to come out and go pretty clean 6th inning in a 1-0 game was very nice. And oh, hey, by the way, no runs allowed by the bullpen. It actually happened, and it didn't even help them win a game.
Yes, but it is nice to be able to say that for just the 3rd time so far this regular season. What an odd series for the bullpen. Awful in games 1 and 3, but scoreless ball in games 2 and 4. So you had the best of times and the worst of times. Starting pitching in this series, Brad Lord was not good in game 1, but you look at the rest of the series, Jake Irvin game 2, Mitchell Parker game 3, Trevor Williams game 4, really good starting pitching as the series went on. Now, look, the Pirates are not a very good offensive team, so I think you have to mention that, but the starting pitching really was not the problem in this series. The offense ended up being the problem.
Walters is back for another season as the official bar of the Nats Chat podcast. Walters is the best spot to go before and after home games, located at the southeast corner of Capitol and N Streets, right across the street from the ballpark.
And now, 2 pigeons bemoaning the fact you can choose the TV you want with DirecTV.
So now they can pick out their favorite entertainment when they sign up and save money.
You mean if you like sports?
You can get a sports pack.
What about entertainment?
Entertainment pack.
It's like finding an old pizza with your favorite toppings, which for me would be pineapple and toenails.
Pineapple?
Pay for the TV you want, not the TV you don't. Genre pack starting at $34.99 a month. Visit DirecTV.com for more information. New residential customers only. Local channels vary by market. Services renew monthly unless you cancel online. Credit card required. Restrictions apply.
kick and the pitch. Swing and a line drive toward the left field line by Nathaniel Lowe. That's in for a base hit. Rounding second, Rosario heading for third. The throw into the shortstop, Kiner Falefa, along the left field line. And into second with a 2-out double to left is Nathaniel Lowe. Said he stands in well against lefties. And he's 2 for 3.
And so next up for the Nats is this 3-game series at the Colorado Rockies. Game 1 Friday night, 8:40. Mackenzie Gore will be the Nats starting pitcher. Game 2 Saturday afternoon at 3:10. Brad Lord will be the Nats starting pitcher. Game 3 Sunday afternoon at 3:10. Jake Irvin will be the Nats starting pitcher. A few things here. So the road trip is not going well, and the Nats, just to salvage a 500 trip, need to sweep the 3 games at the Rockies. The other thing, and we talked about this off the air, weather. Friday is set to be a weather day in Denver, and that could lead to some issues.
Yeah, it's supposed to snow, like legitimately 1 to 3 inches of snow. And even if it doesn't stick that much, temperatures in the low 30s the entire day into Saturday morning. So knock on wood, I'm hoping I make it there on Friday. And I'm going to say I'm not all that optimistic that they play, which could lead to a doubleheader either Saturday or, God forbid, Sunday, which you don't ever want to have to do, especially with a long flight home after that. So it could get a little bit dicey, a little bit tricky. Coors Field, it's always weird. Just I think back to so many games over the years. First of all, no game is ever over. You have to have a different mindset in the 8th and 9th inning, no matter what the deficit is. It can flip in a hurry. The weather can be wild at both ends of the equation. As we said here, snow, but you can also have thunderstorms. It can be really hot and the ball can fly. The Rockies are a mess. They just fired their hitting coach, Hensley Mullins, and replaced him with former Pirates manager and former Rockies manager, Clint Hurdle, all of a sudden in charge of the Rockies hitters. They have been off to a terrible start to the year. Something's got to give between these two teams. You hope that the Nats come out of it and actually benefit and maybe can come home feeling better about themselves. But as you said, it's going to require a sweep just to come home at 5-5 on a trip that felt like, as we said from the outset, felt like a must-winning record kind of trip. This is not the position they wanted to find themselves in.
You tell us what you think. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can find us on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email the show, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. We have a website that we invite you to check out as well, natschatpodcast.com, at which you can purchase a Nats Chat Podcast t-shirt. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast, and we leave you with this report on the Nats AA affiliate, the Harrisburg Senators, with the voice of the Senators, Terry Byrom.
The 0-1 is a ground ball sharply hit, and that is fair down the right field line. That's rolling into the corner. Nolasco over into the corner to pick it up. Lile is around second base, heading for third, and he is there with a slide. It's a triple.
This is Terry Byrom, the radio voice of the Harrisburg Senators, and here is the Senators report. The Senators are 5-5, winners of 3 in a row and 4 out of their last 5 games. They're being led by Daylen Lile. Lile off to a good start in the cold weather. He's hitting .270 with a home run and 4 RBIs and making a lot of loud contact. Philip Glasser has 9 hits in his last 4 games. Philip playing at middle infield and center field, hitting .526 through the early part of the season. Yohandy Morales has homered a couple of times and driven in 4, and as the weather has warmed up, so has Yohandy, which is good to see for the Senators and for Yohandy Morales. Caden Wallace hit a 3-run home run in the Senators game Tuesday night in New Hampshire to turn a deficit into a 4-3 lead in the 8th inning. He's another player off to maybe a slow start offensively, hitting .229, but as the weather has warmed up, Caden also hitting the ball well, and he has made a lot of loud contact. Marquise Grissom Jr. is off to a solid start in the bullpen for the Senators. He is 3 for 3 in save opportunities. Jarlin Susana has made 2 starts, gone 9 innings, and has a 2 ERA. He most certainly does have the electric stuff that preceded his arrival in Harrisburg. Until next time, I'm Terry Byrom with the Senators Report.
There's the 2-2, and it's hit high in the air, out into right center field. Retreating is Frazier. He makes the catch. Tagging his toe-stop is Fox Partney. He scores, and the ball game is over. Jacob Young on the 2-2 pitch. hits the sacrifice fly.